what happened in your own daughter's life that she started to get interested or became introduced to the idea of being transgender?
Well, it really started for my daughter in 7th grade when she went to her comprehensive sex ed class at her public school. And unbeknownst to me, a third party comes in and teaches these kids for 5 hours. So an hour each day. And 1 hour was dedicated to gender identity with the genderbread man and all of the kind of pictorials of you could have a female body and a male brain. And so the seed was planted after that class. And in fact, all of her friends, there were 5, sat in my front yard saying what their new labels were. And none of them chose, the boring cis, which is a made-up term in and of itself, but they all picked something on the alphabet because it's not cool to be, a boring white girl. That's how I took it. And I was, alarmed by the language that they were using, including pansexual, which is not, a term that 11-year-olds should know. Fast forward a year later, my daughter moved from, one label, which, she started with pansexual, which is a nonsense label when you're 11 because you're not sexual at all. And so then she moved from that, she moved to lesbian, then she, over the pandemic, landed on trans. And but over the pandemic is when we really learned it because her public school changed her name to a male name and used male pronouns without, of course, involving us. This school never met my daughter because it was the pandemic and she never stood in their doors or in a classroom. Mm-hmm. And so we pulled her from that school because I thought, what an overreach. We, of course, quickly engaged a psychologist. She quickly told us that we needed to call her by the male name and male pronoun or she would commit suicide. And she believes in the transgender child and says things as moronic as when a child is unbuttoning their onesie to turn it into like a dress, that is gender communicating. If a little girl rips barrettes out of her hair, she is gender communicating. So in my mind, she's a quack. I mean, the absurdity. And I decided that I was going to set boundaries and I was going to hold the line on those boundaries and they were not going to be crossed. I took the phone, so that was key. And a lot of parents will say they can't do that. You can and you must if you want to get your child out of this. And your child will hate you and you have to be strong enough. Your love for your child has to be strong enough to take their vitriol. And it's very, very hard. But you still have to do it because now there's not a day that doesn't go by that my daughter doesn't say that she loves me. Mm-hmm. So you can take the hate because you know what the end is going to be. Yeah. Hopefully. And even if my daughter didn't come back to have a relationship with me, which I knew she would, but even if she didn't, I saved her from being a lifelong medical patient. So I would do it again. A mom testifying is called a terrorist. We testified we spoke at a school board meeting, and the vitriol after that was, and we're all Democrats, by the way. We're all Democrats up at the microphone, getting told that we're right-wing bigots, homophobes. We can bring a lesbian up at the microphone, and they will still call us that. So it's just name-calling. But California just continuously gets worse. But in 2023, our duty has decided that they're going to go on the offensive. Parents should know that their child is being called another name at school. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is a medical intervention to change a child's name. Parents should know if the child is going to school and going into a trans closet and changing their clothes at school. Mm-hmm. And that happens in California. California has just funded 10,000 new school counselors, 10,000. And that sounds like a good thing. Like in my former life, I would have been like, that's great because mental health is such a problem for our kids. But I know that those 10,000 new school counselors are 10,000 new indoctrinators. They are 10,000 new secret keepers. Because once a child goes to a school counselor, parents don't even know. They don't have a right to know that their child is going to a counselor every single day.